The rain had just begun when Clara Reyes stepped out of the taxi and faced the old house on Willow Creek. This was a place she'd spent half her life trying to forget. The wooden porch sagged with age, its paint peeled by time and secrets. She hesitated, clutching the letter that had summoned her home after 10 long years. Her father was dying. She had sworn she would never return, not after the betrayal that broke her family apart. But blood has a gravity all its own, and now it pulled her back into the very memories she thought she had buried deep. The door creaked open before she could even knock. Clara. It was her older brother, Mateo. The brother she once trusted more than anyone in the world. The brother who had lied. Clara just nodded stiffly and stepped inside. The air was thick with the smell of dust and mint tea, her father's favorite. Everything looked exactly the same, yet it all felt completely wrong. Like someone had taken her childhood and just rearranged the pieces. Mateo led her to the room where their father, Elias Reyes, lay pale and frail beneath a heavy wool blanket. His eyes opened slowly, and a weak, fragile smile formed on his lips. "You came," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Clara swallowed the lump that had formed in her throat. I got your letter." Elias nodded faintly. "I needed to see you. Both of you." A cold, heavy silence settled over the room. Mateo stood near the window, his hands shoved deep into his pockets, deliberately avoiding Clara's gaze. For a moment the only sound was the steady drumming of the rain against the glass. Then Elias spoke again, his voice gaining a sliver of strength. "There is something I must confess. Before my time ends." Clara stiffened. She had spent a full decade wondering, replaying that awful day, questioning why her father had blamed her for the money that went missing from their family store, money she never, ever took. She could still hear his shouts, the raw accusation in his voice. She remembered the shame, the crushing disbelief in his eyes, and the hollow feeling of being erased from her own home. Elias took a shaky, rattling breath. "Clara, I know you didn't steal the money." The room seemed to freeze in time. Clara's heart started hammering against her ribs. "What?" she managed to say, her father's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I know who did. I've known for years." Clara's gaze slowly, inevitably, moved to Mateo. He still wasn't looking at her, his face a mask of stone. Elias continued, his voice trembling now. "It was Mateo." The words sliced through the heavy air. Clara felt a hot rush of anger rise in her chest, a storm brewing inside her that mirrored the one outside. It was years of pain, of lost opportunities, of the life she could have lived if not for that single, false accusation. "You knew," she whispered, her eyes locked on Mateo. "You knew it wasn't me." Mateo finally turned to face her, guilt written all over his features. "Clara, I was so stupid. I was drowning in debt. I never thought it would go that far. I never thought Dad would blame you. I thought—" His voice cracked with emotion. "I thought I'd confess before things got worse. But then he reacted the way he did. And I was a coward. I didn't know how to fix it. You let him destroy my life," Clara said, her voice barely more than a breath. "My scholarship, my future, my family. You let it all burn." Silence. The kind of silence that hurts more than any scream ever could. Their father wiped at his eyes with a weak, trembling hand. "I found out later," he admitted. "Mateo confessed to me. But I was too ashamed to admit I had wronged you so terribly, so I stayed silent. I wrote you that letter now because I cannot leave this world carrying that sin." Clara trembled, shaking from head to toe. Betrayal layered on top of betrayal. One brother who had stolen her life. One father who had stayed silent even after learning the devastating truth. The room felt like it was shrinking, the walls closing in on her. "I needed my family to protect me," she whispered, the words catching in her throat. "And instead—" "You were the ones I needed protection from." Mateo took a hesitant step toward her. "Clara, please. Let me try to make it right." But her eyes hardened into flint. "Some things you can't fix." Thunder cracked loudly outside, punctuating her words. Elias reached for her hand. "Clara, forgive your old father. I know I don't deserve it, but I am begging you." Clara pulled her hand away gently, but decisively. "I don't know if I can." Tears rolled freely down Elias's weathered cheeks. For a long, agonizing moment, no one spoke. Then Clara stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the raging storm. For 10 long years, she had carried her pain like a constant shadow. But now the truth was finally exposed. She turned back to face them, her expression unreadable. "I'll stay until the storm passes," she said quietly. "But after that, I don't know." Mateo nodded, looking completely broken. "I understand." Their father closed his eyes, a mixture of relief and deep sorrow settling on his face. Clara walked out into the hallway, each step feeling heavy, momentous. The house behind her was filled with a decade of regret, and she wasn't sure if forgiveness would ever find a place there. But as she stood and listened to the rhythm of the rain, she felt something she hadn't felt in years: freedom. Not because she forgave them, but because the truth, at long last, was finally hers. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. We'll see you in the next one.